Hello, everyone. I'm Randy Arrington, and welcome to the 26th episode of Page Valley Living. We're here today at Springfield Elementary School to talk with the 2024 Page County Public Schools Teacher of the Year, Greg Morrison. We'll sit down with this longtime fourth grade instructor to talk about his recent accolade, as well as the challenges that teachers face today, how he got through the COVID year, and the joys of molding young minds. We'll talk about all that and more in just a moment, but first, let's take a quick look at this week's headlines. And now, looking back at the week that was in the Page Valley. Graduation ceremonies on Saturday sent 261 new high school graduates out into the world from Luray and Page County high schools. About 20% of the class of 2024 will be attending four-year colleges and universities, while nearly 43% plan to further their education in some way. 11 will be entering the military, while more than half will be entering the workforce. In other education news, a nonprofit study abroad and intercultural exchange organization has announced that Luray High School's Brianna Plum is one of 250 American high school students to be awarded the Congress Budenstag Youth Exchange Scholarship for the upcoming academic year. The bilateral exchange program is co-sponsored by the U.S. Department of State and the German Parliament. Brianna will spend the academic year in Germany, living with a host family, attending a German high school, and participating in language and cultural training. After 8 months of care at the Wildlife Center of Virginia near Waynesboro, a female bald eagle found last fall in Luray was released last week in Seven Bends State Park near Woodstock. Multiple pellets from a gunshot wound were found in the eagle, and even after multiple surgeries to repair fractures, its left wing may never completely recover. Since the nonprofit was founded in 1982, the Wildlife Center of Virginia has treated nearly 100,000 animals, representing more than 200 species. In the world of sports, Frankie Comer has been selected as the new athletic director of Page County High School. Comer began his 37-year career at Page County High School, where he's been a health and PE teacher, a driver's ed instructor, alternative education teacher, and a football and track coach. He has also served as an assistant principal in the school division, and additionally, for the last 14 years, he's worked as an athletic official for the Virginia High School League. Comer will be replacing Bill Simmons, who served Page County High School as athletic director for the past 3 years. Comer begins his new role on July 1. And now looking ahead at the weekend in the Page Valley on Friday, June 14th, it's trivia night down at the Valley Cork, 7 p.m. on Friday evening there on East Main Street in Luray. On Saturday, June 15th, it's the Daughter of the Stars Farmers Market from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Campbell Street in Luray over at the train depot at the Visitor Center. And the Benefit Horse Show is happening at River Hill Stables at 10 a.m. That's on Ruffner's Ferry Road just outside Luray. The Page Public Library, they're having an open house Saturday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. over on Zirkle Street in Luray. And the first annual Jeep and Bronco event being held from 12 to 6 p.m. out at Faithbrook Barn and Vineyard on Elgin Drive in Luray. One other note, just outside of Stanley on Marksville Road, is Music Under the Arbor with Taylor Lefevre at Wisteria Farm and Vineyard. That's from 5 to 7 p.m. on Saturday. And that's a look at the headlines from the past week in the Page Valley. Episode 26 of Page Valley Living is being filmed on Thursday, June the 6th, and will air on Wednesday, June the 12th. And now we're back inside the classroom of Greg Morrison here at Springfield Elementary. Mr. Morrison, thanks so much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
And, for those who don't know you, of course, it's nice for myself and my cameraman, Eleanor Arrington, who was a student here and a student of yours. It's kind of nice to be back in Springfield.
Yes,
it's a nice little family atmosphere, and I always like coming back and seeing the Cardinal.
Absolutely.
And, of course, now for those who don't know you, let's tell them a little bit about you. How long have you been teaching?
This is finishing up my 28th year here.
28th year at Springfield. Now, is this the first place you taught?
The only place.
The only
Yeah,
place you've taught.
Started my career here in '96.
And you've been here for 28 years.
28 years.
Wow, wow. And you teach fourth grade. And for those who don't know, it's been a long time maybe since they've been in the fourth grade. What type of stuff do you teach in the fourth grade?
In fourth grade, we concentrate mostly on Virginia history, so all about the state of Virginia, people, places, events, that kind of thing, geography. But we also, I teach math as well. So we're doing fractions and decimals and multiplication, division.
Well, I'll tell you, in history, I remember having a history teacher in school who said when she went to history conferences, they were always jealous of the Virginia teachers because they had so much to work with here. We're kind of fortunate. Even here in the Shenandoah Valley, we got a lot of history.
Very much so. I tell my kids all the time, we have some of the best history in the United States right here.
Yeah, a lot of it began right here, whether we're talking
absolutely.
about government or major battles or a lot of things that we have right here as a natural resource in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Now, obviously, the reason we're sitting here talking with you today, not just because we love you so much and we thought so much of you as a former teacher and your wife as well. Eleanor had both of you, and it was wonderful to be here at Springfield. But recently, you were named the 2024 Teacher of the Year for Springfield, and then went to the Page County Public Schools banquet and found out that you had been named Teacher of the Year for the division-wide as a whole. How did that make you feel?
Shocked, humbled. I saw so many people there that deserve the same recognition, and I see people here in our own building that deserve it.
Yeah.
So I was very humbled by it, but it took me a little off guard because I'm not one of those people that goes out and really looks for the accolades as much.
Right,
but when
right.
people come and tell you things and that you've made a difference in their kid's life, then it's nice to hear.
Now, this was your first nomination or first time? It seems like I remember maybe you might have got one before.
I did get one before, but it was before the county recognized the Division Teacher of the Year. It was just for the school.
Just for the school.
Every school had their own.
When was that approximately, if you remember the year?
It's probably close to 10 or 15 years ago between there. Yeah, so
Okay.
it's been a while. But back then they would come and take your picture. It would go in the newspaper, and it was nice. Here in the last 5 years, the division has done a really good job of taking all that and putting it together and having that banquet celebration, and then
Right.
and then selecting a teacher for the entire division, support staff for the entire division, and they're also doing a bus driver now.
Yeah.
So that was really
Well,
nice.
I saw some of the pictures. It looked like it was outdoors and it was well catered. It looked like everybody had a good time.
Yes, sir. It was at the Caverns.
Oh, very
They
nice.
hosted it over there.
Very, very nice.
Yep.
Well, I can attest that my daughter, our cameraman, Eleanor, really thought the world of you and your wife, and it is an honor that is well deserved, I would say. Now, over the years, I know that teaching, well, at least hearing from a lot of teachers, I have a teacher in my household as well, that over the years the job has got increasingly harder in many different ways. Would you agree with that? And what are some of the things that you've seen that have been a little tougher to deal with in recent years?
I would say lately, I think since COVID especially, we're still dealing with a little bit of the leftover of COVID.
Okay.
Because a lot of the students we're seeing at the fourth grade level, maybe one of their first years was during COVID.
Right.
So we're seeing still a little bit of that. But right now, I would have to say the challenge of technology, it's a two-edged sword.
Okay.
You know, we have kids that are ingrained in it now from the time they're very little starting school. They know
Right.
all about technology.
Right.
Now it's about trying to find ways to utilize it, but in a positive way that's not just screen time and entertainment. So being able to find it as academic and engaging is pretty tough. Because now if you don't do that, they're kind of used to lights, camera, and action all the time.
Yes.
So if you do some old school things, it's a little harder to kind of keep their attention as long.
I got a little anecdote to go along with that. I'm going to evoke my daughter Eleanor in the story once more. I can remember when she was, I guess what you would say would be a toddler, and she was sitting on the floor in our living room, and there was a newspaper sitting on the floor, and she looked at the big picture on the front of the newspaper, and she went, She was trying to scroll. She was trying to scroll to do something. And I thought, man, does that not illustrate the difference between the technology and the generations and stuff that's going on? And I know now that you all have integrated technology quite a bit. I looked over here when I first got in here, and I saw this, what I thought was a giant TV. I was like, why do they need a big screen TV in the classroom? Tell me what that thing is.
It's a Promethean board,
okay,
and it's interactive. It's kind of taken the place of the smart board. The kids can come up.
It is your chalkboard.
In a way, yes. I still use whiteboards, but in that case, multiple students can go up and write on it at the same time.
Okay.
And I can also project a lot of other technologically enhanced things. So
I also noticed you used the term whiteboard, so I really showed my age when I just said chalkboard. Does anyone use an actual chalkboard anymore?
Not that I know of, but I'll be honest, behind those whiteboards is still an original chalkboard. So they're here.
Well, you mentioned the COVID year and talking about the problems there. I guess the biggest problem there, and tell me if I'm wrong, was the fact that for a lot of students, or some students, their education was almost paused. Almost put on pause, and there's almost like a gap there. Is that a good way of describing it?
That's very accurate. That gap thing, we saw that for a couple years afterwards. Just skills that were kind of missing, that we had to really work a little bit harder and faster to get those kids caught up. Because, they had no choice in the matter. It was just one of those things we were dealt with. And so we had to find ways to kind of bridge the gap for them. I remember when my daughter was still in school during COVID, she didn't get to go to prom, and she didn't have graduation, and she was one of the unlucky ones that was her senior year. But for these young kids, that might have been their kindergarten year or first grade year, where it's so important that they have the reading instruction and the math, the basic skills of math. Some of that was missing. And I know parents did the best they could at home, and we were doing the best we could here, but there were still gaps.
We live on Blue Ridge Avenue, so I unofficially opened what I called Blue Ridge Academy. And Eleanor and I got up at the same time every day, and we would do our lessons, the packets you had sent and stuff and things. But I know that, in a lot of places you've got two working parents outside the home. I had just shifted to working at home before COVID hit, 6 weeks before. And so as far as Blue Ridge Academy, that worked out. But it was quite an experience, and it made me appreciate very much what you and your peers do every day.
I think that was one of the positives, at least for teachers, that came out of it, is people did get to see some of the things that we're challenged with on a daily basis.
You're not just babysitters, right? You're not just babysitters.
That's right. That's right.
Moving on here. I want to talk a little bit about Springfield, and I'm not trying to leave out the other schools in the district, but yes, I am biased as a former parent here. What is it about this little elementary school? And I mean, it's not just my opinion. I mean, you can look at scores and data and all that. What is it about this little elementary school that has been so successful?
I really feel like, and people use this all the time, but I really feel that family vibe is here. And it's a small little community around Rileyville. And everybody is invested in this school, whether they have their kids here now or had their kids here in the past. We get a lot of community support here. And then when people do bring their kids here, and we have our staff that bring their own kids here as well, it just seems like everybody's on the same page about what our goals are and what we want our kids to be able to accomplish by the time they leave here. So kids come back all the time talking about how they miss Springfield, and this was the best place ever during their school career. And again, I try to tell them when they're getting close to leaving, like the fifth graders did today. I'm like, gosh, you only have a few more days here at Springfield. And right now, they kind of go,
whatever.
And then in about a year, they come back and go, man, I would like to be back here.
I know somebody like that. But I tell you, I always thought it was a great place, and you've had some good leadership here in the past, but I think it's that continuity of teachers like yourself with 28 years. Your wife has been here for a long time. There's a lot of teachers here that have a long tenure here. So.
Yeah, I've had that discussion with other teachers as well, as I think that's one of the things that kind of makes some of us successful in some ways, is the fact that the longevity. You have to be invested in it for a longer period of time than maybe a year or two.
Right.
And so we usually get people that come and stay and want to be here for quite a while. And then they develop a knowledge base, and they start to only kind of like develop their own way and style of teaching. And so you have to do it for a while to kind of get that.
Well, that you must have read my notes, because that flows right into my next question is, what would you credit, or what would you say has been the key to your longevity?
I would say always looking for ways to improve on the year before. A mentor told me a long time ago when I first started teaching to never teach the same year twice. And so I kind of look at that, and I think of ways that things that work, I want to repeat them, and things that don't, I want to replace them.
Right.
So every single year, I look for things to do different. And I believe, when you kind of self-reflect like that, and you see what makes kids successful and what didn't work with kids, then you're always looking forward to kind of the next year and what you can do different. So it kind of keeps me going.
There you go. I like that. Always reinventing yourself. Do you remember a particular moment with a particular student, or something that maybe happens with the group from time to time that makes you think, yeah, all the frustration and the paperwork and all this stuff, it's all worth it?
Yeah, it happens frequently, many years that happens. This year, I would say I was pretty frustrated with the way things were going, just feeling like we weren't really where I wanted us to be,
right,
academically, and then we just finished up our SOL testing. We got those results back, and I was pleasantly surprised by how my kids this year performed, and I thought, okay, there was many successes in there individually, but as a group too. So
wonderful, wonderful. Well, we're going to take a really quick break right now, but will you stick around to play a game called the 5 W's with us?
I'll try.
Okay, all right. We'll do that in just a moment, but first, we would like to invite local businesses to consider being a sponsor of Page Valley Living. Each week we explore a different issue important to the people of the Page Valley, and our viewership is growing. Each episode remains in our YouTube channel library indefinitely. So consider helping us keep this segment of our local news coverage going, and try a new medium for your marketing. Monthly rates are available. And now back to Springfield Elementary 4th grade teacher Greg Morrison, the 2024 Teacher of the Year in Page County, and the 5 W's. I'm going to ask you 5 simple questions about the who, what, when, where, and why. Are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. Who inspired you to be a teacher?
I would say many family members. I've had several family members that all went into the teaching profession, including my wife. But just as an example, we were at a graduation party recently. I look at a table, and there are 6 present or former teachers all at the same table. So,
all right. What is the best part of being a teacher?
I want to say summer. But honestly, it's really just seeing kids come in at the beginning of the year with little confidence sometimes, and then by the end of the year having success in some ways and having more confidence in what they can do. When they don't believe they can do it, going to now they're ready for the next step.
Seeing that progress.
Seeing the progress, yes, sir.
Wonderful, wonderful. When did you realize that you had chosen the right profession?
Probably 2 years into college, I changed my major. I was originally a wildlife biology major.
Okay.
And but I had been working with youth at church.
Okay.
And had some success there at the church level, and realized, hey, I'm not too bad at this, and the kids kind of liked what I was doing. And so I changed my major to education, and then when I started teaching here, it just kind of took off from there, and I felt that that's where I've been led my whole life now. So,
very good. Where did you originally call home?
I was born in Missouri, but I only lived in Missouri.
Missouri. It's not Missouri.
If you're from Missouri, you don't say Missouri. I learned that from my grandmother. But I lived most of my life, my early life, in West Virginia, where my dad's family was from.
Okay.
And we moved over here, like I said, 28 years ago. And so I've lived here in Page County now longer than I've lived anywhere else. So I'm kind of split. I have two homes. This one, and I still call over in the western part of West Virginia home as well. So I have two.
Very well, very well. All right, and we'll end up with the why here. We thank you. You've been very gracious with your time. It's our last question. Why do you do what you do?
You know, number one, like I said, I feel like I'm led to do it. Yeah. And I know if I didn't, other people could, and other people do all the time. Sure. But I do it just because I think they need it. I think these kids in this community need what I have to offer. Not that I'm, have more than anybody else. It's just sometimes, especially at the elementary level, they don't have a male role model all the time. Right. And I have fit that role for many students over the years, but it's just what brings me back every year. Being able to be that person for somebody.
That is a good way to approach it and a good way to look at it. We want to say thank you to Greg Morrison for being here and talking with us today. Yes, and we want to thank you for everything that you have done and everything that you will do for our kids and our community.
Absolutely.
We also want to say thanks to Eleanor Arrington for all of her work behind the camera today. If you enjoyed today's show, make sure you hit that like button and share it with a friend. Hit that subscribe button as well at Page Valley News on the our YouTube channel. And finally, make sure you visit all of our furry friends down at the Page County Animal Shelter and help them find a forever home. Until next week, I'm Randy Arrington saying, enjoy that Page Valley living.